my writing is always sad, but hopeful maybe, even if it doesn't sound hopeful. I don't really know. Um, I have a friend who's a poet who says that I write love. I write love poetry, but when she said that, she's like, love poetry is synonymous with just sadness. Like love requires sadness and longing. She's like, I don't think love is like a beautiful thing. So she says I write love poetry, and I think that's probably true. Anyway, the songs I ended up choosing are things that are not going to be that shitty because it's a tough time right now, and so I wanted to play a couple songs that would just be happy and be interesting and complex. And the first two that I do are a part of a song cycle. It's a 3-song cycle, but my favorite thing about it is that you can reorder the songs and you get a different significance out of it. So you know, originally they're called the transits, and originally it's transit 1, 2, and 3. I'm actually going to play 3 and then 1, and it just gives a different vibe.
I think what I might do.
Yeah. Uh-oh, zoomy. I want you in frame just staring me down.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, yeah, so I'm going to start with those two, and I'll tell you about the next two.
I'm casually be readjusting the camera every now and again. Just
That's
to
fine.
remember that I'm here.
Just so that they know you're here?
Yeah.
Good. I'm going to do a quick tune, because it's cold in here.
It is cold here.
Also, my guitar, this is like a lesson for any of you guitar players. It's been cold, and it's been dry, and the action, which is the height of the strings against the fretboard, has been messed up recently. So what that means is that you get this fun little thing. It's like easy to fix, but it's like a little twangy.
Yeah.
Kind of nice.
Gnarly.
Yeah. Okay,
Gnarly.
so this is transit 3, and I'll play that right into transit 1. Dark clock stops, clock starts. Dark, don't stop. Don't start. Stuck against those smooth morning musings. Don't stop. Don't start. Dark. Clock stops. Clock starts. Stuck against those smooth morning musings. But I know what I'm not for. 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 But I know what I'm not. Light, naked color swirls in the frost-found green, new to the morning. Balance, oh, to wonder, trust unfurled, and warmth underneath. Fields to tend, love, it glows, and to end. So that was Transit 3, and then Transit 1. What's missing, obviously, is Transit 2. They were all they were all written together.
When you say written together, what does that mean? Like within a span of like a specific amount of time?
They actually were the first 3 songs that I wrote for that album.
Oh.
But I wrote them with the intention of them being, played together.
Okay.
And they're written to be played one into the other.
Right.
They can start at 2-3-1. They can start at 3-1-2. They can start at 1-2-3.
Okay.
It's like there's a sequence.
Right.
It was I have a really intense fascination and longing for cyclicality in my writing.
Okay.
Like season imagery kind of thing is always like really important. And when I wrote it, I didn't realize that I didn't think about writing it or singing it out of order, or like out of 1-2-3. And then when I grew up a little more, I came back to them and I was like, oh my god! Like for a while, I actually thought, oh, I don't want to sing these anymore. Transit 1, the second that I just played is. It's actually the thing I like to play first whenever I play something because it calms me down.
Right.
If that makes any sense, like
yeah.
it really like it.
It's an icebreaker.
Yeah. It brings me into a space that feels very comfortable. But it's about seasons, but it also is sort of about a failing relationship. but it doesn't have to be because it's abstract. So it was when I wrote it.
Okay.
It was sort of like about aging. It was about a failing relationship. It was about the seasons. It was about like the cyclicality of knowing what we're not for. That's what I say in the
Right.
last. I say that in both the second and the third one. Like,
Yeah.
I know what I'm not for. Like,
Yeah.
I did, and that was like, it was something I needed. It was a mantra to myself. Like, I think I don't know what I am for, but I do know what I'm not for. You know. But the first one, Transit One, is just, it's for the moment. It's for that moment of like visceral euphoria when the weather starts to break and the flowers start to come up through the ice. You know, things like that. So I think that's why like it really calms me. It's like I need that piece of music. I need that portrait a lot of the time to remember that things do come back around. Yeah. You know, the darkest day stops being dark, you know?
Yeah.
So I won't do much more talking, but so those are on the album Within Without. These are all Painted Soup pieces of music. The next one that I play, it's like the next two are unreleased. They're on my new album, and
Ooh, exclusive.
Yeah, Patreon After Dark.
No, that's something else.
Yeah. But this next one I actually play on. I play on piano generally, and I figured that it was very in the style of like a Fix Me in Post to play for you a very rough guitar-y version. It's going to be fairly minimal. It's definitely different. I was saying before we came on, the way you play it, even though it's the same, same music. So, this one, those were called Transit 3 and Transit 1. This one is called Wilkes Barre, which is not the name of a town in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
There's a town in Pennsylvania called Wilkes-Barre or Wilkes-Barre. It's
Wilkesboro.
Yeah, people pronounce it really weirdly. It's
Okay.
Barre, and so
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of somewhere else because it's OW.
Oh yeah,
Wilkesboro.
But they pronounce it weird because it was somebody's name as a first name, so it was like Wilkes-Barre. They call it because they're Pennsylvanians and weird. But in the chorus I sing in Wilkes-Barre, and it was an accident. I didn't know that they pronounced it that way, but it's about having visited a place and the place not really being that important, the place just being the setting for how we grow, you know. So this is called Wilkes-Barre. Clinging to the warbled asphalt, the chicory in bloom, neither lost in rendezvous nor memory festooned. The seasons heave in magnitude, and I am here with you in Wilkes-Barre. Dawn's delayed arrival, to listen in the silence to the babble on a stone. Hemiola aquifer, laid within the chapel green, dialectic orchestra, dowsers for the streams, in Wilkes-Barre, cradled underwater to glisten in the skylight, naked and unknown. I can't do that many fancy things on that one without a piano, because
yeah, no, I was, there was like a point in the song where I was like, this would sound really great if there was also a keyboard here.
yeah, this is written on piano, and I think if it was a little spacey, maybe if I had some like effects going through and some fun stuff, it would be fun on this guitar. But I actually have a you can glimpse the live version of me playing it on piano on my Instagram.
So have you? So this is going live on your next album.
Yeah, and I do have a finished version.
Now, does that reflect what you were just talking about in terms of like the spaciness of it?
Yeah, it's got a lot of layers.
So it's okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you find that like you figure out the vibe for like the song in playing it more?
Yeah.
Or does that come in the writing phase, or does that come in the lyrical phase, or like where does that come?
All of it, yeah.
So like all the above.
One big thing that's like a big secret, and I bet a lot of musicians think this. Actually, I don't know. I was taught by composers who were like, there's no wrong note, you know? And I'm so glad that I was taught by people like that, because I needed that. And like, I learned that there are wrong notes. I learned theory. I learned a lot of theory. And then I learned from composers who were like, play what you want to play and figure out why it feels good. That being said, there are times when I'm playing something and I make a mistake. Like a lot of my playing and like practicing and sort of like internalizing playing or singing happens like lying on my bed, just like playing the same thing on repeat. And there are times where my hand fucks up, and then I'm like, whoa, what was that? Because I get boxed in. So like, for instance, there's a song, the first song on that first album, where the format is basically, it's like a verse series and then this middle section and then the verse series comes back. And when I was just playing it acoustically, it's this, it's like that, right? Well, when I come back, it's there's this right, there's this open note that just, it's called a pedal. So when I was playing it acoustically, I started doing that, and I was like, oh, that A form should change a little bit. I should get this pedaling in there. And then it was reflected in the recording when I went back into that A section. I do that, but I also added layers that weren't there before. So like there's corresponding there's conversations happening between the different
it's
micro
little mistakes.
Like micro mediums, because like I work in one medium, which is like singer, songwriter, music, but like that's a bunch of micro mediums, you know. So
I guess the correlation to that, trying to just relate on my art form, is like whenever, you know, I make a mistake in terms of like light, or I haven't fully set up lighting, and all of a sudden something hits something a certain way. It's like, oh, I never would have thought about that previously, but now that I see it, I like it.
Yeah, totally. Actually, to relate to photography, and then to go into the last song before we call it quits, as I get distracted. You might not have known, even if you were friends of us for the last like 6 months that we've been doing this. Partly probably related to this. I haven't even talked about this with you that much, but I think just being in a new place in my life and working in this and feeling stressed and happy and stressed and happy and not really knowing the new type of work, in my own work, I definitely hit a writer's block for a little while this year.
Yeah.
I have never hit writer's blocks. I'm good at preventing them, and I just hit this thing that I just could not figure my way out of, and so, and part of that was because I kept putting layers and layers of stress on top of myself that I didn't need to. This song I just wrote. It's like one of my favorites. It's just so small. All these songs, I'm sure you've noticed, are just like small little portraits. That's kind of what I'm going for right now. Like little vignettes, you know. But this one was inspired by me thinking about the way that photographers interact with their lives differently than me, and how I had locked myself into a way of thinking that was wrong. And so the way that I'd been thinking was, I can't return to a thought or I can't return to a memory once I've written it down. Once I've like coped with it, I can't return to that.
It's hard to get back to it.
And that's like totally fucking absolutely false. And so what helped me get out of that was I was writing one day and I thought that, you know, photographers, like say a portrait photographer is not taking a photo of the face or the skeleton of that person. They're taking a photo of how the light interacts with that person. Yeah. And so if I think about that in terms of my writing, then I'm not writing my memory itself. I'm writing the way that I in this moment am interacting with the memory. Yeah. And that's going to change throughout my life, you know. That's going to change as I evolve, as I grow because of my music, you know. Yeah. So this really helped me. That really helped me come back. And this is one of the first pieces that I like out of the blue, just finished, boom. It's inspired by a lot of things, but it just deals with that a little bit. So this one doesn't really have a name yet. It'll be the last song on this album. Okay. And there's a fun story that kind of like will pique your fancy as people who like behind the scenes stuff. When I release my album, I'll also release an extras album. Because I have like an insane amount of extras that relate to all the songs that I wrote for this. And one of them is just a 25-minute conversation with a friend of mine who helped me design this song before I even realized that's what we were doing. And it's just like such a beautiful thing that I like accidentally captured that moment. As long as he gives me the okay, it'll be a pretty cool extra conversation. Yeah. So this one is Untitled Number 1. Revenant in the corner of my mind, will you still be by my side when the lights go out? Magnolia, too cold to call it spring. How an April shower sings on the nape of your neck, on the nape of your neck. Oh. Gilded fawn, bow to the blind hour. Porcelain and smoke, sorrowful, the apiary waits for a meadow's gentle sermon. Would that God could stay, would that I were with you now.
my tears run up your shoulder and be lost within your hair. Will you love me when I'm older? Porcelain and smoke. It's like, I think that that, I don't know what you'd call it, but like that imagery of like small portrait types of like not only sounds but narratives, but you know, and that's the emotion that comes across too.
Yeah.
It's like it feels like a small snapshot into a very specific moment.
Hopefully,
no, that was really pretty.
Hopefully relatable though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me specifically though, like, it, I don't know, I feel like you hear a lot of music and it feels very broad, whereas that feels much more direct.
Yeah.
Which in turn just makes it...
You know the concept of like the genius, the original concept of the genius is like the Greek genius was like that God came into your soul and like worked through you. That's like when people talk about a genius. It was like enlightenment for a moment, and it would go away.
Right.
And sometimes I feel like I have those moments where I look at something and I'm like, whoa, I didn't write that. Who wrote that?
Yeah.
And it was like a reminder to myself that I've come back to a lot. And it was like write in like unrelatably intimate ways and intimately relatable ways, or something like that. You know, and I feel like that's something that's really what I've tried to do a lot, which is like very obviously these are my stories.
Yeah.
But like inviting you in creates a camaraderie, maybe. I don't know. That's like what I keep hoping for. And
no, absolutely.
I think it's fun because like all these songs I could like take a line out and be like, oh, what I'm saying in that line is like about this memory, but it doesn't matter, you know?
Yeah.
That kind of shit doesn't matter. It's like whatever you feel it's saying is important, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been really fun, and thank you for being here. Thanks for letting me play to you. And
claps in the chat.
letting me play for Brandon.